welcome. We're calling this Out of Bounds here. It's I want to say this is going to be the only simulcast produced in a spare bedroom you'll find on the internet. Okay, this is something that we're trying, and I've been wanting to do for a while, and I think we're going to be able to do it. You know, this is not easy. You know, producing this is not easy at all. We got a simulcast, which means it'll be radio, it'll be a podcast, audio only, which will be available shortly. iTunes takes a while, and we're also going to set up kind of a hosting website, and we're also going to produce the video of this on YouTube. So YouTube, the same channel as the James Skrmetta Experience, the same channel as all of that, will be the host. So subscribe, all that stuff, and you will get this content, which we're going to try and release twice a week. We're going to start off doing this on Mondays and Fridays, which we set it up kind of like that with football. Tuesday would probably be better of a day, but with the James Skrmetta Experience hosted on Tuesday, we don't want to backload everything and upload 4 things a day or on one day. So Mondays and Fridays will be this, completely sports themed. This is a completely sports themed show. So if you like the more variety thing, if you like the Soup, Tosh.0-esque show, then continue watching the James Skrmetta Experience. But if you like your sports like I do and you're passionate about it, join us for a conversation. We're going to try and keep the episodes relatively short. I think we could do a long show, but we're going to try and keep around 15 minutes for each one, just so that you don't. 15 minutes of a video, 15 minutes of a podcast is a long time until we get established, until we get the request for a longer show. Then we will gladly do a longer show. We'll have guests on here. We'll talk about different topics. Let me know what you want to talk about. Today we're going to jump in. The big topic over the weekend was Aldon Smith and his release, his arrest, his problems. The 49ers have had the worst offseason in history. It's unbelievable what they've gone through, and this is only worse. Aldon Smith, he might not be a household name per se, but just to show how good this guy was, he had 30 sacks faster than anyone in NFL history. All right, he was the NFC Defensive Player of the Year. He was unstoppable. And what happened was, if you're not familiar with it, if you haven't been watching, SportsCenter, what happened was Thursday night he got into an incident. What happened in the incident itself is still up in the air. This is not a charge. He did not catch a charge. It's very confusing when you first hear it, because it sounds like it could be one thing, sounds like it could be another. I'm just going to tell you what the San Francisco police report said. It said Thursday night he hit a parked car while he was parking his car. So it sounds like it might have been a neighbor's car or someone in the neighborhood. It wasn't in like a business. So he hit a car while he was parking it. Then he got out of his car and caused more damage to the other car, but with his car door. So if you can picture that, he parks the car, hits it, gets out, causes more damage, a little scrape action, and then he flees. Now I say flee, he's charged with fleeing or hit and run, but when the police arrived, he wasn't there. And then he came back, and that's when the arrest happened. So he was charged with hit and run, vandalism, and the big one, DUI. He was suspected of DUI, which would be his third DUI charge since he was drafted in 2011. And that's the big thing, because obviously I think if the DUI charge is not there, this isn't as big of a deal. It might just be a kind of an incident of he said, she said, maybe a hit and run. That ain't good, but I don't think he would have been released over. But he was released Friday, and GM Trent Baalke and the 49ers made the decision to release him after he met with them. So they met with Aldon after he left jail, and the reason that Baalke said that they released him was because Smith did not take responsibility for the incident. Here's an audio clip of Aldon Smith leaving the jail, leaving the courthouse, and claiming his innocence.
Simple as this. Hey, justice will be served, and the truth will come out. There's no DUI, and I'm sorry for anybody I let down. I'm sorry for, the way this whole thing. Let me do this. It's time. I need to speak, and I want everybody to understand This wasn't a DUI. The situation that happened could have been handled differently, and I apologize for everybody I did let down, and I apologize for how it all played out. But as far as everything is concerned, it'll work out how it's supposed to work out. That's all.
What can you say what happened last night?
That's all. All right. Thank you. Leave me alone.
Okay, so if you listen to that, it makes it sound like he's pretty adamant about him not being drunk. And that's, like I said, that's the charge. That's the big charge. If the drunk thing is not real, if he wasn't actually drunk until he gets charged with DUI, then you got to wonder exactly how much water this thing holds. Because if this was just a misunderstanding or something like that, this guy's career is over with the 49ers. Let's just run down his record since he was drafted in 2011. In January 2012, he caught a DUI. June 2012, he suffered minor stab wounds in a scuffle. He was hit with a felony assault charge, which was reduced to a misdemeanor. Then September 2013, he got another DUI, entered rehab. April 2014, it was the infamous false report of a bomb threat at LAX. And then now, this hit-and-run DUI vandalism. So obviously the guy's troubled. And obviously he has some issues, some serious off-field issues. He's 25 years old. He had, to make matters even worse, he had a $9 million contract, okay? He had a $9 million contract, and he rescheduled it in March of this year. He rescheduled it to show what his agent said, that he was going to bet on himself and that he was going to completely give it out to the team and completely stay out of trouble. So he rescheduled his contract to have $1 million base pay from $9 million. He had a $9 million contract. And it was a 1-year deal because he was going to be a free agent after this year. So he was going to do this deal, and then after he proved himself, they were going to reschedule a long-term deal. So the way that it's set up now is that Aldon Smith makes $1 million base, and then for every game he's on the 53-man roster, he makes $322,150 for a max of about $5.5 million. And there's other bonuses in there as far as like how many weeks without an incident, how many games played, all this other stuff that would get to the $9 million. But now it's all over. Now none of that is here. So he, on top of costing himself his time with the Niners, he's now cost himself about $8 million by getting in trouble again. And it goes back to the question of second chances. And it goes back to the question of, a person's resume, a player's resume. That's really all they have to kind of go off of. When you get in trouble, that's what they look at. They look at the resume. They look at what you've done. Are you worth the investment? And talent-wise, it's obvious. Talent-wise, well, hell yeah, he's worth the investment. He's arguably the best defensive player in the league. He's arguably the most dominant player in the league at his position, and someone the Niners definitely need because they've lost so many other players. And his record just is so bad. I mean, the DUIs is what really gets me because it's really easy for me to sit back here in my luscious studio, all right, in my lavish audio palace that I've been given here. And it's easy for me to sit there and say, why don't you just hire a driver? Pay a driver. Pay him $50,000 a year. That's nothing for someone making $9 million. Pay him. Have him Uber you around, basically, or just call an Uber. I mean, I get taxis all the time. It costs me $15. But some people just don't think like that. And obviously, Aldon Smith doesn't think like that. And you can't, it's hard because you ask these guys to be gladiators. You ask these guys to play the most violent sport on earth and to also have a head on their shoulders for when they get in these situations. I'm not giving him a pass by any means. I'm not saying that it's okay for these people to act like this, because it's not. And I do think he should be reprimanded. But first of all, he'll get a second chance. That's a fact. He will, sixth chance, I guess you could say. He will play again in the NFL. Write it down. Put a stamp on it. You heard it here first. All right, on Out of Bounds with James Skrmetta. The new show. What a name. What a title, right? It took me weeks to think of that. But he will get another chance because he's too good. You want to know why Ray Rice isn't in the NFL? Because he averaged 3 yards a carry. That's why. You want to know why Adrian Peterson's in it? Adrian Peterson could have switched an entire kindergarten and he'd be in the NFL because it's Adrian Peterson. The NFL, Greg Hardy's on a team, okay? Ray McDonald's on teams. The Dallas Cowboys is basically made up of nothing but convicts and felons. Des Bryant's punching people at practice. He's on a team. This man, Aldon Smith, he will be on a team. And that's the question, really. Do I think, or do you think, the listeners out there, do you think that he deserves a second hit? Would you give him a second chance? How would you do it? Would you structure him on a really minimum deal and kind of the same deal here where it's made up in bonuses where you don't get caught with the money, but you can still have his services, you can still have this player, you can still let him do what he does? Because that's what he is. He's a football player. And that's where it really troubles me, is deciding what to do with these people. You can't say, all right, you're gone just because of a specific situation. I think you have to have a set rule, just like with Ray Rice. I don't think Ray Rice should be out of the league because of what he did. I do think what he did was awful. I do think he should have been suspended. I agree with all that. But I think that if the team was interested in him, I think they should be able to sign him. The way I would do it is I would have, for example, domestic violence, do like a 2-charge deal. First time you get hit with a domestic violence charge, bam, six game suspension. Next time you do it, boom, done, gone, retire. You gotta do it like that, because if you do it on a one-time basis, if you do it on a one-time deal where you mess up, you get domestic violence, you get a DUI, and you're gone, then what's going to happen is you're going to start bringing in other people that aren't going to say a word because they don't want to cost this guy his job. Think about it. If I'm Ray Rice's wife and I get dropped in an elevator and I know that he's making $8 million a year, and if I tell somebody we're going to lose that life, we're going to lose that money, I'm not going to say a word. Same with Aldon Smith. You got to give him a system. These people, Aldon's 25 years old. He's younger than me. So, I mean, these are immature young people sometimes with a lot of money and a lot of vices. Money brings problems. Money brings vices into a lot of these people's lives. And you got to give them a chance to rehabilitate themselves. And it really is a different situation with Aldon Smith because there's so many issues. And you look at some of these issues, the report of a bomb threat at LAX, I mean, that's just, you almost can't even fathom how dumb that is. You can't fathom how dumb it is for a person to do that. So it's hard to say he needs to be rehabilitated. He might just be a bad seed. I don't know the guy. I have no idea. I think he will play again because he's too talented. And that is kind of the sad aspect of the league, because talent trumps everything. He'll play again, and if he gets charged with a DUI, and you're staring at 3 DUI charges within 5 years, I mean, there's people that serve 20, 25 years for that. This guy definitely needs help. He's already been to rehab once. I don't know what you do. The Niners had to cut him. There's no doubt about that. I'm not saying that they shouldn't have. The Niners had to cut him. You can't have a guy on the team that does this over and over and over and over again without there being a reprimand. And I thought it was really interesting too, because head coach Jim Tomsula, who's in a bad spot, he's in a really tough spot because he's inheriting this team. And let's go ahead and show, since December 2014, they've lost Ray McDonald. He was released after a sexual assault investigation. Jim Harbaugh didn't retire, but he was out as a coach. He got fired December 29th. Then March 5th, Bruce Miller, their fullback, was charged with a misdemeanor domestic violence. Then March 10th, Patrick Willis, the mainstay, the guy, was retired. Just called it quits, called it a career. Then Chris Borland retires on March 16th. Another defensive player. Then May 18th, Justin Smith retires. That some people saw that coming, but still, big-time player. June 5th, Anthony Davis retires. And then August 7th, Aldon Smith's released. So you look at it, and Tom Sula's in a tough spot, right? Tom Sula's in a spot that no one wants to be in. And they handled it almost like a funeral. People they did what you never see, and they canceled practice. And people were crying in the locker room, according to Tom Sula. They made it sound like they lost someone who they all really cared about, which is something you don't normally see. Normally in these situations with people like this, people that cause trouble, they just want them out. They want them out of the locker room. But you could tell that the vets and the people in that locker room, really did care for Aldon Smith, and I think they treated him like a little brother that they know is just keeps getting in trouble, but they know there's something there, there's something special, and they want to see him succeed. And the fact that he did is just crushing that locker room. I think it's awful for the Niners. I think they had their work cut out for them anyways. I would be really surprised if they won more than 6 games. You know, they're in a tough division. They're lost everything. You lose Patrick Willis, you lose Harbaugh, you lose Justin Smith, all those defensive players. Now you lose your best defensive player. Kaepernick was already struggling. If I'm a Niners fan, I'm not in a happy place. Speaking of a happy place, though, something that I've done, I've taken it upon myself to put Major League Soccer, the MLS, on my back, and I ordered the MLS Live package about 2 weeks ago. $40 for the rest of the season. We are 2 weeks since the All-Star game, so we're in the second half by a couple games here. So I bought $40. I can watch every single game, and I've watched probably 10 to 12 games since the All-Star break, and it was probably 90% of games. I love it. MLS is an incredible league. If you can buy stock in a league, buy stock in the MLS. And the games are fun. The players, they got big name players coming over. So what we're going to do every Monday is we're going to do the MLS Minute. All right, you can time me at home. I've got my scarf here. I got my soccer scarf. We're going to put it on. We're going to run through a recap of the games. We're going to run through it all. For those listening on the podcast, on the audio version of this, the scarf is on. I wish I had some tea. I wish I had some blood sausage in here. We're going to run through the MLS Minute. We're going to show highlights. We're going to do it all. Play the music. Let's do it. The Montreal Impact outshot DC United 25-1, but the one was the one that mattered. DC United continues their impressive season with a win. Sporting Kansas City defeated a fully loaded Toronto FC team 3-1. Toronto had Josie Altidore, Michael Bradley, and arguably the best player in soccer, Sebastian Giovinco, but it didn't matter. Philadelphia Union and Orlando Cacaz played to a 0-0 tie. The Columbus Crew defeated Rapids 2-1. The Houston Dynamo defeated San Jose Earthquakes 2-1. Vancouver continued their strong play against Real Salt Lake in a 4-0 drubbing in the biggest beating of the weekend. In my humble opinion, the best team in the league, the LA Galaxy, beat the Seattle Sounders 3-1. Seattle can't win a game. They're losing games all over the shop. And LA is getting even stronger. Steven Gerrard's playing well. And the new man, Giovanni Dos Santos, gives another superstar to an already loaded team. Dos Santos got a score and an assist this weekend in a 3-1 win. And in the Battle of New York, finally last night, with Pirlo, Frank Lampard, David Villa, Poku, both Wright brothers on the field at the same time in front of 25,000 people in the Big Apple. New York FC took on the Red Bulls, and New York Red Bulls came out on with a 2-0 win. New York FC is struggling right now. Frank Lampard and Pirlo can't figure it out for some reason. They're still trying to get used to this American life. It's not easy, trust me. I do it all the time, but it's not easy. I make it look easy. But coming over from England, coming into New York, they're struggling, and the league needs them to be good. The league needs New York FC to be good. If they're not good with all those superstars, that ain't good for anybody. I hope they get better. They get a chance to kind of improve, but this week they lose. They get swept by the New York Red Bulls. That has been your MLS Minute with your host, James Skrmetta. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you watch MLS. I hope you support domestic soccer. It's only getting better. There it is, the MLS Minute. How great was it? Did you love it? I felt good about it. The only thing I didn't like was the scarf. And there's a light in here. There's a studio light. And it's about 2,000 degrees where I'm sitting. And putting the scarf on, ripping through the highlights, dropping a little Scott Van Pelt Sports Center action on everybody. It wasn't easy. But we made it through. We got one more topic today. First show's going a little long, but you know how it is. So first show's going a little long here. I'm looking at the clock. Looking at my audio levels, everything's looking good. The production value is incredible. I got my production assistant, me, is here. My editor, me, is here. And my floor manager, me, is also here. So the whole crew's here. Whole crew is here. This past weekend was the Hall of Fame football. Football's back. Starting yesterday, we'll have 27 straight weeks of football. Straight Sundays of football. And it kicked off this weekend, the Hall of Fame inductions. Jerome Bettis was inducted. Junior Seau was inducted. And then the Vikings and Steelers played a 14-3 miserable game that I didn't watch. I actually did. I'm not going to lie to anybody. I watched about maybe 3 drives. It was like in the third quarter. I watched Landry Jones play, the ex-Oklahoma quarterback, plays for Pittsburgh now. Teddy Bridgewater played the first quarter. He looked good from what I hear. I didn't watch. I was watching True Detectives finale, so, pray for me. But anyways, next year's interesting. Next year's interesting because we've got the lock, the guarantee, the headliner, the showstopper for next year, Brett Favre. It'll be his first year on the ballot. He will be a first ballot Hall of Famer, deservedly, but he will be. So he'll be in. But there's another person you may have heard of that's interesting, Terrell Owens. Terrell Owens is on the ballot for the Hall of Fame, which makes me feel really old. But there's a lot of people out there that are saying that he might not get in, that he might not be a first ballot Hall of Famer. And I'm here to tell you people, if we have a motto on this show, it's no rules, no breaks, and no topic off limit. But there should be a fourth rule. It should be we support Terrell Owens. We've always supported Terrell Owens. I've always supported T.O. Now, I don't like T.O. I support T.O. the same way I listen to Chris Brown's music. I wouldn't hang out with Terrell Owens. I don't particularly like him as a person. I don't follow him on Twitter. I don't do any of that stuff. But on the field, you cannot deny how great he was. And if you're talking about a Hall of Fame situation, and you're talking about what is the Hall of Fame, you can talk about personalities, you can talk about off-field issues, you can talk about all that stuff, but at the core, at the foundation, the Hall of Fame should be the best players to ever play the game in one place. That's it. That should be the foundation. That should be the floor, and you build up from there. So if that's the case, there is no way that Terrell Owens shouldn't be a Hall of Famer. And let me know. Let me know on Twitter. You can follow me or you can comment. Let me know what you think. Is Terrell Owens the first ballot Hall of Famer? And if not, what's your reason? Because if your reason is just he's selfish, a quarterback killer, a diva, if that's your reasons, then you gotta reflect. You gotta step back. If that's your reason, Deion Sanders shouldn't be in the Hall of Fame, because Deion was the biggest diva of all. If your reason is that Terrell Owens went bankrupt and had a rough end to his career, that's not what the Hall of Fame is all about. Now, I do agree if someone's out there, killing people or getting charged with stuff like that, he shouldn't be in the Hall of Fame. But all Terrell Owens did was just kind of make boneheaded moves and be a diva, just like Ocho Cinco does. So let's break it down. Terrell Owens' career spanned 15 years. 8 years in Frisco, 2 years in Philly, 3 in Dallas, 1 in Buffalo, 1 in Cincinnati. Towards the end of his career, he was kind of bouncing around. That's when he really started getting in the headlines. Once he left Philly is when, the poo-poo hit the fan. In those 15 years, he had 9,000-yard seasons. And let it be known, his year in Cincinnati, he missed 2 games. And he was 20 yards away from another 1,000-yard season and 1 touchdown away from 10 touchdowns. So that one is a little asterisk. But in his 15-year career, he had 9,000-yard seasons and 8 double-digit touchdown seasons. He has 1,078 catches, which is 6th all-time, 15,934 yards, which is 2nd all-time, and 153 touchdowns, which is 3rd all-time. All right? That's a Hall of Fame career. You can't be top 6 in the 3 major categories of your position and not be in the Hall of Fame. Not to mention, this guy played with Trent Edwards, Jeff Garcia. He took Donovan McNabb and the Eagles to the Super Bowl. Took them. And with a broken ankle. The guy was playing on 1 foot, and he was carrying a team to the Super Bowl and lost to Tom Brady. Nothing to hang your head about. I don't think it's even a question. I think that Terrell Owens and Randy Moss is also in this book, because if you look at Randy Moss, his career, you could argue that it was in a bubble. His career, he was great in a bubble. He was great, just like Terrell Owens. When you think about T.O., he was either dominant or he was non-existent. And just Randy Moss, he was dominant, or he had his bad years at the end. He made his mistakes off the field. He mooned people, whatever. You cannot deny the dominance of these players. You cannot deny what Terrell Owens did in between the sidelines. And as bad as he was off the field, as selfish as he was on the field and in the locker room and in front of the media, He's a Hall of Famer. Without a doubt, he's a first ballot Hall of Famer. Arguably, you have Jerry Rice, who's on his pedestal. But if you remove Jerry Rice, it's hard to find two more dominant receivers than Randy Moss and Terrell Owens. And I think that if Terrell suffered by not getting into the Hall of Fame on the first try because of his off-field issues and selfishness and kind of media portrayal, I think it's a shame. I hope he gets in. I'd vote for him if I had a vote, but they don't give me a vote. So, but I would vote for Terrell Owens. I hope you would too. If you would, then you stand by me, which is good because you want someone to be standing by when they're listening to you for going on about 30 minutes now here. So sorry for the long episode, but if you've listened this far, let me know how the show can be better. Also, subscribe to the channel, of course. Subscribe to the channel for all content. We are slowly becoming the king of content here. We're pumping out the James Skrmetta Experience on Tuesdays, which is a variety show unseen before. Arguably the best show on the internet on Tuesdays. On Mondays, we will release Out of Bounds with James Skrmetta, the first episode of the week, kind of recapping everything from the weekend. Then on Friday, we will do another episode where we preview everything for the weekend because we're getting ready for college football, getting ready for the NFL. We're also going to be releasing NFL conference previews or divisional previews. We'll do the NFC West, North, South, all that leading up to the NFL first game. We have about a month. So we're going to be doing previews. We're going to be doing SEC previews, college football previews. We're bringing in guests. I have somehow, have been connected with people in the media. Of course, my boy Gunkel up there, big time with me in Tennessee. We'll get him on the show. We'll talk some college football. But until then, we're going to finish this up with what I'm watching for the rest of the week and what we'll probably end up talking about. So go ahead and do the same. If you're sitting around in free time, you remember I mentioned this, go watch it. We'll talk about it. That's what all this is a conversation. Tonight, Monday night, I'm watching Monday Night Raw. And I'm going to flip over to I Am Chris Farley on Spike. It comes on at 9 Eastern. I'm really interested about that because Chris Farley's career, just like all those guys, like Kurt Cobain, Robin Williams, that just gone too soon. Chris Farley was a talent unseen before. And I will be checking that out. 9 Eastern on Spike. I Am Chris Farley. It's a documentary. Wednesday, we have a triple header of MLS games. We got the Union versus Chicago, Montreal versus Vancouver is probably the game I'll watch, and then Sporting KC and Real Salt Lake. Also, Wednesday night baseball, the Pirates and St. Louis, big-time pitching matchup. Garrett Cole and Michael Wacha, two of the best teams in baseball, going at it with their aces pretty much. Always fun to watch. And then Thursday, New York FC, team I was just talking about, versus DC United, the best team in MLS right now, DC United at Yankee Stadium. They've been packing in about 35,000 every home game, so it's fun to watch. If you get a chance, please watch it. Thank you very much for watching this. Thank you very much for tuning into the very first episode of Out of Bounds. Check it. Like I said, two ways to watch this is on YouTube here, visual, or then the podcast version will also come out. I will release the podcast audio version on YouTube as well, just in case you want to Bluetooth it, stream it, listen to it in the car, and you don't want to have to worry about watching. But that will also be on there. And then once we get the situation figured out with where the audio will be hosted, then you can, of course, check out the audio version there. Thank you again for watching, guys. This has been Out of Bounds. I appreciate it. Until Friday, I will talk to you later.